A punctured tire. A man was driving his car all the way from New York to Boston. Only at the end of the trip did he discover that one of his car's tires had been punctured from the very beginning. Still, he managed to reach his destination successfully, and his journey wasn't affected by this problem. How is it possible? The punctured tire was the spare one. A tricky ploy. A big company director returned from lunch and discovered that his safe had been broken into and all the money had been taken from it. Inside, he saw a note, "Don't even consider calling the police." Well, the man did exactly the opposite. He called the police and told them he suspected that his half-brother David was to blame. One of the police officers visited David and asked him several questions, but the man showed the detective his right arm, which was in a cast. "Look, I broke my arm just a couple of days ago. I couldn't get into my brother's office or write a note." The police officer had nothing to do but leave. He decided to have lunch in a cafe across the road from David's apartment. Half an hour later, the detective noticed the man leaving home. At that very moment, the detective realized that the brother was guilty after all and rushed to arrest him. How did he understand? The police officer noticed that while leaving the apartment, David had the cast not on his right but on his left arm. Is he smart enough? One day, a cute new guy, Tom, joined Katie's class. All her classmates had a crush on him, and he clearly knew about his popularity. But whatever they did, Tom didn't pay attention to any of their signs of affection, and his eyes were only for Katie. She also liked him a lot, but she wanted to make sure he wasn't just cute but smart too. So once, when they stayed alone in the classroom, Katie walked up to the whiteboard, took the marker, and wrote 128 square root sign E 980. Tom looked at it for a few seconds and then smiled, and Katie knew he cracked her riddle. Can you? Mathematically, this riddle doesn't make any sense, but if you wipe the upper half of the whole expression, you'll get "I love you." Takes a bit of wit, huh? A fired manager. Mark, Jim, and Bob work as managers in the same office. One day, one of them is fired, and one gets a promotion. The remaining manager wants to resign at first, but then changes his mind. You know that the one who's fired is older than the rest and single. Jim's younger than the manager who has decided to stay at work, and he doesn't know Bob's wife. Who's fired? It's not Jim because he's younger than the manager who stays. It's also not Bob because he's married. It means that Mark has been fired, Jim has got a promotion, and Bob has decided to stay in his position. An antique dealer's riddle. David was a famous antique dealer in his town, but there were loads of people who envied him. The man had a young, beautiful daughter, Lisa. One evening, when the antiquarian was busy in his workshop, his phone rang. A man told him that they had David's daughter. If he wanted to see her again, he had to give his jewelry collection to a man waiting at the doors. It wasn't the first time someone was threatening David. That's why he requested to talk to his daughter. He asked her just one question. "I have 2 hands, but I can't scratch myself. What am I?" When David heard no answer, he said, "It's not my daughter," and hung up. What's the answer to this riddle? Lisa would know that her father was talking about a clock. A driver's problem. A man was driving along a countryside road when one of his car tires burst. While changing it, he accidentally lost all 4 wheel nuts. The road was deserted, and the driver was afraid he'd have to spend many hours waiting for someone who could give him a hand. But a kid passing by his vehicle said something that helped the man solve his problem. What advice did the child give the driver? The kid told the man to remove 1 nut from each of the remaining wheels and use them to secure the new tire. This way, the man could get to the nearest service station. Notorious shoplifters. Detectives had been trying to catch 2 infamous shoplifters for several years. And finally, after another case, they managed to capture one of the culprits. Police officers were interrogating him for 2 days, but he said nothing about the goods and money they'd taken or his accomplice's whereabouts. Still, in the next 24 hours, the detectives managed to find the place where the stuff was hidden. It was a small house in the suburbs. In its basement, there was a man who seemed very excited to see the police. He said he'd been trapped in the house already for a week. Nobody visited him, and he was starting to run out of food. That's why he was so happy to read the good news in the paper. The police officers immediately realized it was the accomplice they'd been looking for. How? If he was trapped in the basement, how could he get a hold of fresh newspapers? 2 buckets. You have 2 buckets of water. In the first bucket, the water is heated up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. In the second bucket, the water is cooled down to minus 100 degrees. You need to simultaneously drop 2 coins into the buckets. Which coin will reach the bottom faster? The coin thrown into the warm water. The other won't sink at all because the water in the bucket is frozen. Let it go. Important documents. John, the director of a big company, managed to persuade his partners to sign a super important agreement. He then put this document into a folder and left it on the table in his private office. When he returned to work the next morning, the folder was gone. Surprise, surprise. John gathered all the employees who were in the office at that time and questioned them. The cleaning lady said she had been busy washing the floor and hadn't paid attention to anything around. The designer explained he hadn't left his working place even once. What's more, being an artist, he didn't have any interest in agreement documents. The accountant admitted that he had entered John's office to have some documents signed, but once he noticed there was no one inside, he immediately left. Who took the folder with the agreement? It was the designer. Otherwise, how would he know that the missing folder had an agreement inside? Socks puzzle. Matthew wears either only black or only white socks. One evening, he's in a hurry, getting ready for a romantic dinner with his girlfriend. Suddenly, the power goes out. The guy has 10 white and 10 black socks in his drawer, but all of them are mixed. If it's completely dark in the room and Matthew can't see anything, how many socks must he pull out of the drawer to get 2 matching ones? Just 3. In a set of 3 socks, he's bound to have 2 socks of the same color. A smart teacher. One day, a teacher decided to give her students a test, but all of them refused to take it. She could give detention for skipping the test to only one student. All of them knew each other's names. If a student knew they were going to get detention, they agreed to take the test. How could the teacher make all the students participate? She told them that she'd give detention to the student whose name came first alphabetically. Then this person wouldn't skip the test. The next person on the list wouldn't skip as well, and so on until the end of the list. Hidden treasure. Martha really loved her little sister Mary, but once she had to go away for the whole day. She didn't want Mary to miss her too much or get bored. That's why she organized a treasure hunt for the girl. Before Martha left, she gave her little sister a map. She told the girl if she followed the instructions, she'd find a real treasure. Mary followed the map to a T. She made the exact number of steps and turned at all the right spots. She eventually got to the end and started digging. The little girl dug and dug, but still found nothing. Naturally, she was pretty upset. When Martha got back, she took the map and almost immediately found the treasure. How so? Martha made one major mistake when she was drawing the map. Her steps were a lot bigger than Mary's. That's why the younger girl couldn't find the spot where Martha had hidden the treasure. What happened to Prom King? Soon after Bob became king on prom night, he vanished. Poof, like that. His teachers were looking for him everywhere. They believed there were 3 people who could be behind his disappearance. Bob's rival Joe said he had been dancing all night with his girlfriend and hadn't seen Bob. Bob's classmate Dennis claimed he hadn't been feeling well, so he spent all night in the lounge. Laura, Bob's secret admirer, said she had been counting the votes for the election. The teachers knew who was behind the disappearance right away. It was Laura. Bob had already become prom king. She didn't need to count the votes. Sam's birthday. Sam is a truly special young lady. She was just 17 the day before yesterday. Next year, she'll be 20 already. What's her secret? Sam's not a time traveler or anything. She was born on December 31st. So if today is January 1st, it's correct to say that she was 17 the day before yesterday. She turned 18 the next day. She'll be 19 on the last day of this year, and next year, she'll be 20. Lola is a waitress on a giant cruise liner. One night, after the restaurant closed, she found an expensive watch on the floor. She announced it on the cruiser's radio, and 3 people showed up to claim it. Roger showed Lola the tan line on his wrist and asked her to give him the watch back. Mary said she remembered dropping the watch near the entrance of the restaurant and wants it back. Susie kept asking if the watch was okay and if it was working. Lola decided that the watch belonged to Susie. Why? You've got 10 seconds. Roger's tan line on his wrist is too small compared to the watch Lola found. And if Mary remembered where she dropped the watch, why didn't she pick it up? Susie knows how expensive her watch is, and she was worried it broke. Jenna and Michael were out partying on Halloween night. Michael told Jenna she wouldn't dare to go to a 120-year-old abandoned castle on the other side of town. Rumor had it that a mad scientist used to live there. Without a second thought, Jenna started walking. She reached the house at 3 a.m. and the door was open. When she walked in, the crazy scientist showed up and told her, "I've got a riddle for you. If you answer it correctly, you're free to go. If not, I get to do my scientific experiments on you. A sphere has 3, a circle has 2, and a point has 0. What is it?" You've got 9 seconds to find out. Dimensions. Michael left his work and walked into the dark parking lot in the basement to get his car. When he approached his vehicle, he saw a 4-pin lock on his door. He kept looking at it when his boss showed up. He told Michael, "I want to see if you're smart enough to get a promotion. You only get 1 try. If you figure the code, tomorrow you'll move to the executive's office." His boss gave Michael a piece of paper that read, "Which was the latest passing year that was the same upside down?" Michael started thinking of all the years that passed, and the next day he got the promotion. You have 8 seconds. Think fast. It's 1961. Susie arrived at the dance studio for her rehearsal when she found her instructor unconscious on the floor. Next to him there was a broken vase. Someone must have hit him on the head. Susie called Detective Allen at the scene, and he was suspecting 3 people who entered the studio that day. William, another instructor, said he had an emergency private class with a celebrity and left before anyone showed up at the studio. Mason, a professional dancer, said he took the week off and dropped by today to give the keys back to the dance instructor because he forgot them in his bag when he left the day before. Sally, a dancer, said she had class today, but when she showed up, she didn't see anyone through the window and assumed the studio was closed. Detective Allen knew exactly who was lying. You've got 7 seconds. It was Sally. Her fingers are covered in bandages and cuts. They must have happened when she broke the vase. Lucy was walking back home from the restaurant. She was talking on the phone to her sister and took a shortcut through a creepy park. Suddenly, someone came behind her and snatched her handbag from her shoulder. She tried to chase them, but it was too dark. She only saw a figure going into the cinema. Lucy followed them there, and when she went in, she only saw 3 girls standing there and questioned them. The first girl said she just got there, and she's waiting for her friend to arrive. She said she's holding a big bag to sneak some food into the theater. The second girl said she missed the movie because she has a broken leg and it took her a while to get all the way to the cinema, so she's waiting for the next viewing. The third girl said she came back from her friend's house and wanted to see what movies are playing. Lucy took a good look at them and knew exactly who was lying. You've got 6 seconds. It was the girl with the broken leg. Her left leg is broken, and instead of holding the crutch on the left to support her weight, she has it on the right side. Alex was at the park, snapping photos of trees and flowers for a photography competition. When he finished, he placed his camera on the bench and tried to disassemble his equipment to head back to his car. Suddenly, he heard someone running, and his camera was gone. He saw the person going inside a blue car. Alex got the rest of his stuff and followed the robber. He then saw the car parked outside a restaurant. He walked in and saw 3 people sitting down. Can you guess which of them is the robber? You have 5 seconds. It's the one on the right looking at the menu. The others are eating. They've been there for a while. Sarah and Michelle went to explore an abandoned castle. When they walked in, the door shut behind them and the lights went on. In front of them, 3 doors appeared. They must pick the right one to make it out alive. Behind the first door, there's a hungry crocodile that hasn't eaten in 2.5 years. Behind the second door, there's lava from a volcano that erupted 2 weeks ago. And behind the third door, there's a massive seawater pool with a whale shark you must swim through. You have 4 seconds to decide. Crocodiles can go without food for 3 years, and lava can remain hot when it's well insulated for months. The best option is the whale shark. Even though it's a shark, we humans are indifferent to them. Tori was the lead actress in a movie. They were filming on a deserted island to make sure nobody was around to interrupt the scenes. The day before the shooting, Tori was found unconscious in her room, and the crew member called Detective Martin on the case. He interviewed 4 suspects. The producer said he'd be scouting the island to find a new location with a lake, and he didn't talk to anyone all day. The writer said he'd been making some adjustments to the scripts in his trailer. The camera operator said he was testing his filming equipment when a stranger approached him for directions. He ran off to help them. The director was sitting on the beach, writing down notes about small details he wanted to add to the movie. Detective Martin figured it out in 3 seconds. Can you? It was the camera operator. Hey, this was a deserted island. Nobody was there needing help. Anna is a vegetarian restaurant owner. The day she opened the new restaurant, she invited her family to celebrate. Her sister came first, but found Anna unconscious on her office floor. She immediately called the police, and they questioned everyone that entered Anna's restaurant that day. The electrician said he came in for some final checks to make sure everything works. The cleaner said he came in for his shift, but Anna was okay before he left. The chef said he had been sharpening his knives for the meat carvery station. The police arrested the chef. Why? Here are your 3 seconds. This was a vegetarian restaurant. There's no meat carvery station. Jenny, a famous singer, went abroad for her first concert. She checked into a hotel and went to perform for her next show. When she returned to her room, She realized all her jewelry was gone, and she called the police. Detectives checked the cameras and saw that nobody left the hotel that night. The person who took them was still inside. There were only 3 people at the hotel. Michael said he couldn't sleep and spent the entire night in the lounge reading. Jason, the manager, said he spent the night in the back office watching TV because it was quiet. Margaret said she went to the hotel's pool to swim alone. The police knew who was lying. You've got 2 seconds. It's Margaret. Hotel pools are closed tonight for maintenance. Jason and his wife are millionaires. They have 3 sons and 2 daughters. All kids were going on a camping trip together, and the couple will have the weekend for themselves to relax. When they woke up the next day, all their money was taken from their safe, and they called the police. When the officers showed up, they interviewed the 3 people who were in the house that morning. The butler said he was cleaning the car after driving the kids to the camping site. The chef said he was busy preparing a huge breakfast for the family. The cleaner said he finished cleaning quickly that day and left early. The police figured out who was lying in 1 second. Can you? It was the chef. Since the kids were gone, he couldn't have been cooking breakfast for the family. So check this out. 3 men are sitting around a table drinking coffee. They all look alike, but only 2 of them are brothers. The third one just doesn't belong at all because he's an alien. Who is it? It's the man sitting on the right. He's got 12 fingers. Yeah, the one sitting in the center has some weird ears, but look at the family portrait on the wall. His dad has the very same ears. Gabrielle is a shop assistant in a department store. Right now, there are 3 people in the fitting rooms. There's Jessica, the woman wearing a green dress, Sean, a man wearing a leather jacket and skinny jeans, and Alex, the man who's trying on a larger-sized pair of jeans that Gabrielle just brought him. One of the clients is an alien. Help Gabrielle figure it out. Who's the alien? It's Alex. Take a closer look at his feet. Only a reptile or an alien would have feet like that. Jessica was walking through the dark woods. Suddenly, she saw a castle. Probably belonged to a witch or something. She was pretty curious and wanted to snoop around, but the door was locked. There was a note with a secret code attached to the gate, but she still needed to decipher it. If you want to enter my castle, crack this code. Can you crack this code? The answer is witch. 2 stars after wing means you need to get rid of the last 2 letters. Same goes for the word tea. For the word chair, you need to cut off the last 3 letters. See? Eric went to the supermarket and grabbed 2 oranges and a watermelon. It cost him $6. Helen went to the same supermarket. She grabbed a lemon, an orange, and a watermelon. She paid $8. The oranges, lemons, and watermelons all have different prices. What's more expensive, an orange or a lemon? The lemon's more expensive. Eric had 2 oranges and a watermelon, which cost him $6. The 2 fruits have different prices, so it can't be 2 + 2 + 2. The only possible combination is 1 + 1 + 4, so the watermelon cost $4. Helen paid $4 for the watermelon and $1 for the orange. So now we know a lemon costs $3. David and Hannah got stranded on a tiny uninhabited island. They had no radio or cell phones, so they couldn't call for help. There were no trees on the island, so they couldn't even make a smoke signal. Suddenly, Hannah noticed a plane circling the sky, searching for them. But it was flying too high. There was no way the pilot could see them. That's when she got a bright idea. Soon after, the plane spotted them and picked them up. What was Hannah's idea? She used rocks to spell out SOS on the sand. 3 turtles are walking one behind the other. The first one says, "There are 2 turtles behind me." The second one says, "There's 1 turtle behind me and another one right in front of me." The third one says, "There are 2 turtles in front of me and 1 more right behind me." Now, how's that possible? Well, they're walking in a circle, very slowly. On a farm, there's a cow, 2 horses, and a cat. Farmer Jack drives up to his farm accompanied by his dog, Fluffy. How many feet are there on the farm? There are only 2. Cows and horses have hooves. Dogs and cats have paws. Only Jack has feet. You find yourself trapped in a medieval castle, far away from civilization. Boy, your vacation isn't turning out as planned. You can't jump out the window because it's too high off the ground. The only tree near the window doesn't look sturdy enough for you to climb on down. However, there are 3 doors, one of which can lead you to freedom. Behind the first door is a fierce fire. Behind the second door are hundreds of venomous snakes. And behind the third door, there's a pitch-black maze. Who knows what surprises are waiting for you there? So, which door should you choose? The third door. You just need to break off a tree branch, turn it into a torch by lighting it in the first room, and go through the maze. At least you'll be able to see where you're going. Maria lives in Paris, and once every 2 weeks she goes to Saint-Tropez to see her grandmother. She bought a ticket from the machine, finished her coffee, and headed to the train. But this weekend, something went wrong. She didn't make it to Saint-Tropez. Why not? She bought the wrong ticket. It says Saint-Tropez, Paris, but she needed Paris, Saint-Tropez. When she tried to get on the train, the conductor immediately told her she had the wrong ticket, and she just didn't have enough time to change it. Emma's a big fan of all things pink. She lives in a 1-story pink house. She has a pink cat, a pink dog, a pink hamster, pink walls, pink doors, and even a pink fridge. What color are her stairs? She doesn't have stairs. She lives in a 1-story house. But that house sure gets a lot of stares from the neighbors. Mark got to take part in a TV show where he had to answer some tough questions. He was doing really great and managed to answer 14 out of 15 questions. He was real nervous. Only one more question and he'd hit the grand prize, $1 million. What is as large as an elephant but doesn't even weigh an ounce? Mark shouted out an answer, and now he's a millionaire. What was his guess? It's shadow. It's as large as an elephant, but it's weightless. Ice melts when you heat it up. But if you heat me, I solidify. You have 7 seconds to figure out what I am. I'm an egg. Hey, don't crack me up. Paulo was on a mission to take some nature pics for his blog. As he was walking through the forest, he fell into a deep pit. He tried to climb out, but when he grabbed onto a rock, it broke off and water started to pour in. The pit was filling up fast. Paulo saw a deflated ball, an empty barrel, and a piece of wooden board. What should he use to get out of the pit? The deflated ball is too small and has a slit in one side. The wooden board wouldn't support his weight. The best option is the empty barrel. It might just keep Paolo afloat. Anthony majored in accounting at the university. His roommates wanted to test his intelligence. They took 3 envelopes and wrote some messages on them. Then, they put the answers to Anthony's upcoming exam in one of the envelopes. Only one envelope has a truthful message written on it. The other 2 are lies. Anthony isn't allowed to open the envelopes before choosing. The first message read, "There are no exam answers here." The second read, "The exam answers are here." And the third message read, "The exam answers aren't in the second envelope." Which envelope has the exam answers in it? The first envelope has the answers in it. The first and second envelopes are lies. The third one's telling the truth. A man was driving along a country road when one of his tires burst. While changing it, he accidentally lost all 4 wheel nuts. The road was deserted and the driver was afraid he'd be stuck out there all night. But an old lady walking by said something to him that changed his luck for the better. What advice did she give him? She told him to remove 1 nut from each of the other wheels and use them for the 4th tire. This way, he could get to the nearest service station. King Archibald had no one who could inherit his throne. That's why he decided to hold a contest to find a worthy successor. He gave a seed to every participant and announced that the person who grew the healthiest and most beautiful plant would become the next king or queen. On the final day of the competition, the king saw hundreds of people with plants of all sizes and shapes, but he ignored them all. He ended up choosing a lady holding a pot with nothing in it but moist dirt. How come she won? The king was a kind and honest man and wanted his heir to have the same qualities. He gave the participants tiny pebbles, not seeds. That's how he figured out the lady was the only honest one there. 4 men are lined up on several steps, all of them facing in the same direction. A brick wall separates the 4th man from the rest. Man 1 can see man 2 and 3. Man 2 can see man 3. All man 3 sees is the wall, and man 4 can't see anyone. They're all wearing hats, and they know that 2 of the hats are white and 2 are black. Which man will be the first to figure out and shout out the color of the hat he's wearing? Obviously, the men aren't allowed to turn around, talk to each other, or take their hats off. It'll be man 2. Man 3 and man 4 can't see any other hats. Man 1 sees 1 black hat and 1 white hat, so his hat can be either white or black. Man 2 only sees 1 black hat, but he realizes that if he were also wearing a black hat, Man 1 would know his hat was white. And since Man 1 hasn't said anything, Man 2 must be wearing a white hat. And if you figured all that out, well, my hat's off to you. Rebecca works in a large international company. One day, she comes back to the office from lunch and finds her colleagues extremely agitated. They hurry to tell the girl that someone knocked their HR manager out just an hour ago. The police have 3 suspects. Laura is an applicant. She says she was a bit angry with the HR manager. After all, he made her wait for ages, well past the time of her appointment. She stayed outside in the rain and probably caught a cold. And still, Laura says, I would never hit him. Plus, I'm too weak to do it. Gary, who works in the marketing department, claims he hasn't seen the HR manager since he arrived at work. He was having a meeting from the very morning till lunchtime. Jacob, from research and development, tells the police he rode his bike to a coffee shop to get his cappuccino. He's just come back. Who knocked the HR manager out? It was Jacob. Both his bike and his clothes are dry and clean. How is it possible if it's raining outside? Jack is participating in a challenge. He's got to the last stage, which takes place in a desert. If he succeeds now, he'll win $1 million. Jack needs to get a key out of one of the 4 pots. On top of the first pot, there's a bowl filled with a strong acid. The second pot is covered with a bowl full of venomous spiders. In the bowl placed on the third pot, Jack sees a raging fire. A viper is curled up in the bowl covering the fourth pot. Jack isn't allowed to drop the bowls or turn them over. Which pot should he choose? The guy should choose the third bowl. He can put the fire out with the sand and get the key. Jacob is the owner of a small IT company. Larry is his subordinate, exceptionally talented and just as forgetful. More often than not, he seems to be lost in his head. Such things as going on a trip out of the blue without notifying anybody is typical for this genius. Normally, the boss turns a blind eye to Larry's quirks. But this time, an important business meeting is about to start. Jacob needs the data Larry has been working on, but the guy is nowhere to be found. He doesn't answer his phone, so no one can reach him. 1 hour before the meeting has to begin, Jacob can't wait any longer. He switches on Larry's computer, but it's password locked. The man tries some random combination of letters and numbers, but of course it's wrong. Suddenly, a tiny window appears on the screen. In this window, Jacob sees what seems to be a riddle. Little, late, late. After puzzling over it for a while, the man types something in the window and sees the home screen. The computer is unlocked. What has Jacob written? The answer to this rebus is too little, too late. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. The folder with the needed data is also protected by a password. When Jacob clicks on it, that's what he sees. Write backward all the numbers. Sounds like a tough task. Luckily, Jacob knows how Larry's brain works. He doesn't need much information to write the correct answer and, finally, get the information. What is the password? And there you have it. That's the phrase, all the numbers written backward. Camilla was terrified of dogs. One day she was jogging in the park and noticed a large dog sitting near the bench. It looked unfriendly. The leash attached to the dog's collar was 3 feet long. Camilla decided it would be safe to pass by if there was at least 7 feet of space between her and the pooch. But even being on a leash, the dog still managed to bite her. How come? Sadly, the leash wasn't tied to anything. David's company develops new apps for smartphones. Right now, he's looking for a designer. He's got hundreds of applicants, but has chosen just 3 of them. Angela's resume says, "I'm 23 years old. I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm a fast learner and have already designed similar applications." Helen wrote in her resume, "I'm 26 and have 4 years of work experience. You should hire me because I've created lots of TikTok stories that have gone viral." And Eric's resume claims he's 28 years old with 7 years of work experience. He's designed tons of apps. He's been working for Google since the company was launched. David can hire only one person, but it's okay because only one applicant hasn't lied in their resume. Who is it? Eric has just 7 years of work experience, but Google was officially launched in 1998. There are no stories on TikTok, meaning Helen couldn't create them. David hired Angela. Even though she hasn't been working that long, she's honest and has a nice portfolio. Kevin, a security guard in an amusement park, finds a boy standing near a roller coaster. The kid says his name's Nick. He doesn't know where his dad is. Kevin takes Nick to his office and makes an announcement. Soon after that, 2 men show up at the door. The first exclaims, "We were in a cafe, but after eating my burger, I felt so sick I had to spend almost 20 minutes in the bathroom. When I got out, Nick wasn't around. I was so worried." The other man interrupts him. "We rode a roller coaster together. Then I told Nick to wait there and went to get us some hot dogs." Which man is Nick's father? Nick is too small to ride the roller coaster, which means the second man is lying. The boy's dad is the unlucky guy with food poisoning. Aiden fell madly in love with a beautiful girl, Ella. He tried to spend all his time with her. The man bought her expensive presents and flowers, invited her to the best restaurants, organized yacht trips. They traveled the world, stayed in famous hotels, and went shopping for designer clothes. In less than a year, Aiden became a millionaire. How is it possible? Well, before meeting Ella, the guy was a billionaire. Carter had a fast and successfully developing company until his main investor went bankrupt. Carter was desperate. He went to visit his best friend Justin, a coffee shop owner. "Cheer up," Justin exclaimed. "One rich businessman visits my cafe almost every day. He's here today, too. He's very mysterious and doesn't have any social media accounts. Few people know about his wealth, but I do. Go and introduce yourself." Justin pointed toward the back of the coffee shop. Carter went there and saw 3 men. Uh-oh. He hadn't asked his friend which one was the wealthy entrepreneur. He looked at the men attentively. In no time, he figured out who was the one he needed. It isn't the guy in the middle. He has a $1 store bag. The one on the right could be rich, but he's recording an Instagram story. And the businessman isn't active on any social media. This means the man Carter needs is on the left. Carter was right. The guy turned out to be a billionaire. He was impressed with Carter's business, but before signing the papers, he mentioned one condition. Carter had to prove he was prepared for all kinds of stressful situations. The man had nothing to do but agree to the challenge. After that, Carter was taken to a remote house and left alone. He was locked in a large room with no windows and 3 doors. Suddenly, the ceiling started to go down. At the same time, the room began to fill with water. Carter knew that behind the first door there was a powerful whirlpool that would take him under the surface in no time. The second door was hiding a school of vicious piranhas. And behind the third one, there was a deep pit with sharp wooden spikes at the bottom. Which door should Carter choose to save his life? Carter picked the third door. Once the pit filled with water, he swam over the spikes and successfully escaped from the trap. When he returned to the office, the billionaire had already signed the contract. 3 friends agreed to hang out together on Friday night. One of them, Brian, was tasked with bringing pizza. But the guy was running extremely late. His friends were starving. Strangely, Brian wasn't picking up their calls. But in an hour or so, he sent them a selfie. In the photo, he was standing next to his car. In the following message, he wrote he had run out of gas. He was at a gas station, tanking his car up. But his friends didn't believe Brian's excuses. Why? In the picture, it's clearly seen the guy's got an electric car. It doesn't need gas. You suddenly wake up trapped in a dark room. Your only source of light is a candle. There are 2 doors in front of you. Behind one of them, there's a tunnel that will lead you outside to freedom. Behind the other, just a cold brick wall. You have a key that will open only one of the doors, and you can try it just once. So, how do you know which door to try? Hold the candle up to each keyhole. The flame will move near the door that leads outside. You escape to freedom, but you need to send some important documents to your friend Beth. You can't mail them in a regular package because the precious papers will get stolen. So you put them in a box and lock it. But Beth doesn't have the key to this lock. How can you send the papers if you can't send the key to the lock separately? First, send the lock box to Beth. She'll attach her own lock and send the box back to you. Then, remove your own lock and send the package again. Beth can then remove her lock and finally open the package. Bad news. You get a call one morning from Beth. She says the crucial documents were stolen from her office. They'd been on the desk the evening before, but are nowhere to be found this morning. You immediately go there to question the employees. In no time, you gather 3 suspects. Sean said he had been at the movies last night. Michael had taken his girlfriend to an amusement park. And Christina was at a prestigious art gallery. Who's lying? Sean. His movie ticket isn't torn. Having been caught red-handed, Sean makes a break for it. He hops in his car and drives away. Law enforcement are on the lookout. Sean sees a police car right ahead of him and starts driving toward it. Why would he do that? He was on a bridge. He needed to go toward the patrol car to get to the other side and make his escape. No such luck for poor Sean. He gets caught and locked up. But he starts hearing rumors of an inmate planning to break out. The guards have 2 suspects. First, a quiet bookworm who spends most of his days with his nose buried in sci-fi novels. The second, a big burly tattooed guy who's always working out. Who should Sean become friends with if he wants to get out of here? The bookworm. Look closer, and you'll see his bookmark is actually a file. On Friday afternoon, the owner of that same prestigious art gallery discovered that 4 of the most famous artists' self-portraits had been stolen during an exhibition. The police show up to do an investigation, and now they have 3 suspects. Sarah, the artist, said she disappeared into one of the studios to paint. John, the security guard, explained he was just waiting outside and had no idea the portraits were gone. Daniel, the caterer, stated he was at a nearby store picking up extra napkins when the robbery took place. So, who's the thief? It's the security guard. He couldn't have known the stolen paintings were portraits if he was standing outside. As fate would have it, there was another incident that night. Michael, who never really liked what passed for art in modern times, rushed into the gallery and caused millions of dollars worth of damage to several paintings. Yet the gallery's owner thanked him for his actions. How come? Michael is a firefighter. The water from his hose damaged several masterpieces, but he still managed to extinguish the fire and save many more works. They awarded Michael a big check in gratitude. He heads home just in time to get his 5 kids all packed up for a camping trip that weekend. Mike and his wife are really looking forward to having the weekend for themselves to relax. But when they woke up on Saturday, they discovered the check was missing from their safe. Once the officers showed up, they interviewed the 3 people who were in the house that morning. The chef said he was in the kitchen getting school lunches packed. The cleaner said he finished cleaning quickly that day and left early. The butler had just gotten back after taking the kids to camp 3 hours away. Who's lying? It's the chef. It's Saturday, so there's no school, and the kids have gone camping. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a scientist is working on something bizarre. He invites Kevin and Claire as blind test subjects for his new serum invention. He gives them each a glass of ice-cold lemonade. Kevin drinks his fast, but Claire apprehensively waits to see the side effects on him first. After 2 hours, nothing happens, so she drinks her glass. 2 minutes later, her skin turns green. If both the drinks had the serum, why was only Claire affected? The serum was in the ice. Since Kevin drank his fast, none of it got in the lemonade. Claire runs out of the lab in horror. She gets in her car and speeds off. As she's driving down a long, empty road, one of her tires pops off. Good thing she has a spare in the trunk. But here's the problem. She now has no lug nuts to put the spare on with. So what should Claire do? Unscrew one lug nut from each of the other 3 wheels and use them to attach the spare tire. It'll be enough to get to the nearest garage safely. As Claire is putting on her spare tire, the scientist catches up to her. He hands her 4 pills and tells her it's a complex cure to the green face serum. 2 of the pills are an antidote, and the other 2 are a catalyst that activates it. Claire must take 1 of each type together. If she takes 2 of the same, her face will stay green forever. Just as the scientist is handing her the pills, he trips and they get all mixed up. They look identical. What should Claire do? Grind the tablets up, mix all the powder together, and divide it in 2 parts. Each half will have the same amount of catalyst and antidote. It worked! And just in time. Whew! The next day, Claire has a big calculus exam. But funny enough, all the students in the class refuse to take it. Professor Miller can expel only 1 student for skipping the test. All of them know each other's names. If a student knows they'll be expelled, they agree to take the test. How can the professor make all the students take it? She should tell them she'll expel the student whose name comes first alphabetically. Then this person won't skip the test. The next person on the list won't skip either, and so on until the end of the list. The next day, class isn't any easier. Professor Miller grabs her cup of coffee, takes a sip, goes to set it down, and what's this? It's stuck to her hand. Somebody put glue on the cup, and she's got 3 suspects. Look carefully to find out which student is playing tricks on the professor. Sure, the first student has an awfully guilt-ridden look on his face, and the second student's smile looks just like pride for a job well done. But look closer at the third student's pocket. Yep, it's the tip of a glue bottle. Professor Miller is so annoyed by her class's shenanigans, she decides to change her career. Wow. She opens a shoe factory. She's so successful that she builds a second one in another city. But despite her success, the problems don't end. Her employees keep secretly taking shoes from the plant. What can she do to resolve the issue? Have one of her factories start making only left shoes and the other only right ones. One of those shoe swipers is driving a semi-truck full of shoes to sell for a profit. He comes to a tunnel and there's a major problem. His truck is just an inch too tall. But he can still drive through the tunnel. How? Let some of the air out of the tires. It'll lower the truck just enough. When the shoe swiper gets through the tunnel, he comes to a fork in the road. One goes to the town, the other to never-ending wilderness. There are guides standing at each. The catch? One always tells the truth, the other always lies. The driver doesn't know who's who, and he's only allowed one question. What should he ask to find out which road goes to town? Ask either one of the guides which road the other would say is the right way. Then he must choose the opposite. The truth teller knows the other will lie, so they'll point the driver toward the road to nowhere. If he asks the liar, they'll know the other guard would honestly point him toward the town, so they'll again recommend the road to nowhere. The shoe thief takes the road to town, but he has another puzzle to answer before he's allowed to enter. The guard at the gate asks him one simple question. What's the logic in the order of the following words? Fun, blue, bee, more, and dive. Every word rhymes with its number on the list. Fun 1, blue 2, bee 3, and so on. The shoe swiper finally settles down in this new town. Too bad for him, he can only use a payphone to make calls. One day, the phone breaks. He informs the phone company, but they do nothing. He tries again the next day. Same result. The third time, he finally gets them to come out and fix the phone. So, what did he say? He claimed that people were making calls without paying. A wet mystery. Mother and father living in the north of Canada went shopping, leaving their teenage son home. He said he wanted to mount his new TV on the wall. They were halfway to the mall when Mother remembered she'd left the iron plugged in. They returned and found the house freezing cold. Mother turned on central heating again and they left for good. When they came back after a while, there was water dripping from the ceiling on the first floor, and on the second, their son was lying unconscious in a pool of water on the floor, and the TV was hanging on the wall askew. Can you guess what happened? The young man hauled a big chunk of ice upstairs to stand on it while he mounted the TV. He turned off the heat for the ice to stay frozen, but when his mom turned it on again, the chunk melted and the boy slipped and fell. A code number. A detective who had been mere days away from cracking an international criminal gang has suddenly gone missing. But he was smart enough to try and help the investigators in their search by leaving one clue, more specifically, a special code: 710-57735-34 5508-517718. The police have 3 prime suspects: John, Bill, and Adam. Can you break the detective's code and help the police arrest the right criminal? The The numbers in the detective's code represent letters. If you read the message upside down, you'll notice that it says, "Bill is boss. He sells oil." So, Bill's your guy. Cuff him, boys. A lousy alibi. A man had been strolling through the park when someone suddenly hit him on the back of the head. Witnesses say the culprit had brown hair, blue eyes, and was wearing a baggy suit. The main suspect is Sean Baker, who matches the description perfectly. The police interrogate Sean, who gives his account of what happened. "I was just hanging out in the park, and I saw this man walking along the pathway. Then some other guy suddenly sprang out of the shrubs right in front of him and hit him. I ran home as fast as I could." The police ask him to give a description of the attacker. He answers, he had a red mustache, red hair, and a baggy suit on. However, one of the investigators says Sean is lying. How does he know? Sean claims that the attacker came up in front of the man, but that's complete nonsense. The man had been hit on the back of his head. Strange noises. Amy and Carl were lying in bed at night when they heard weird noises from their daughter Stacy's bedroom. Amy went to see and carefully opened the door, but saw her teenage daughter fast asleep and the noise stopped. The next night, it all happened again, and in the morning, Amy found a snakeskin lying under Emily's bed. Alarmed, the family searched the whole house but couldn't find the snake that left it. Still, the sound persisted every night. Can you guess where the snake was hiding? It was in the walls. At night, when it was quiet, the snake would crawl out in the open, but when everyone woke up again, it hid inside the pipes and between the boards. A careless granddaughter. Sally went to the drugstore to get some meds for her grandma. The pharmacist looked at the prescription and handed her 4 identical pills, 2 for pressure and another 2 for her legs. He warned Sally that Grandma should take 1 of each kind a few hours before bedtime. The girl nodded and dropped the pills into her bag. As she got home, Sally realized what she did wrong. There were 4 completely identical pills in her bag, all mixed up. But when it was time for Grandma to take the pills, Sally figured a way out. What did she do? The only way out of this situation is to split all the pills in half and take 1/2 of each pill. This way, Grandma will definitely get the right meds. The chicken matter. Sally's grandma, yep, that same one, got 3 hens that gave her 3 eggs in 3 days. When Sally found this out, she decided selling eggs could be a good business. So she got her grandma 12 more hens of the same kind. Sally can't wait to get her profit, who wouldn't be? But she's not that great at math. Can you help her figure out how many eggs Grandma will get in the next 15 days? Three hens brought Grandma 3 eggs in 3 days. It means 1 hen brings 1 egg once in 3 days. So it'll give 5 eggs in 15 days. Now that we've got 15 hens, we can easily multiply the numbers and get 75 eggs in 15 days. A window to freedom. Jack is thrown in a cell with a dirt floor and only one window positioned so high no one could reach it. The cell is empty except for a shovel. It's dry and hot in there, but Jack won't get any food or drink anytime soon. He has only 2 days to break out of his cell. Digging a tunnel would take at least a week. How should Jack escape? He should use the shovel to make a pile of dirt under the window, climb on it, and escape from the cell. Seriously, who secures prisoners this way? Back to school. On the first day of the school year, a geography teacher vanished. The police had as many as 4 suspects. They were the gardener, the math teacher, the coach, and the school principal. The sticking point was that they all had alibis. The gardener was cutting bushes. The math teacher was holding a mid-year test. The coach was playing basketball. The principal was in the office with parents of one of the students. Despite this, the culprit was arrested immediately. Can you guess how the police solved the mystery? The math teacher was lying. According to his words, he was holding a mid-year test, but the geography teacher disappeared on the first day of the school year. Late delivery. A lonely old man lived in his house in the suburbs of a city. He led a quiet life and never left his dwelling for long. It was a midsummer Friday when the mail carrier walked by and called out for the man. There was no answer coming from inside the house. The carrier looked into the window and, oh no! He saw the house was a total mess, and the owner was nowhere to be seen. When the police arrived, they found a Tuesday's newspaper, 2 bottles of warm milk, and 1 bottle of cold milk. The next day, the robber was arrested. How did the police find out who it was so quickly? It was obviously the mail carrier. He knew that no one in that house would read a newspaper on Wednesday or Thursday. That's why he only came on Friday. There's chemistry between them. A famous chemist went missing. There was no evidence found except for a piece of paper with the names of chemical substances on it. On the day he disappeared, the chemist had only 3 visitors: his wife, Mary, his nephew, Nicholas, and his friend, Jonathan. The police looked at the note and arrested the culprit right away. Who was it, and how did they find it out? It was Nicholas, the chemist's nephew. If you combine the short names of the chemical substances on the paper, you'll get his name: Nicolas. An untouchable car. A man was found unconscious in his own car. The police found a rock near the man, and it was obvious he had been hit on the head with it. But the car windows were intact, and the door was locked. How could someone throw a rock into the car without damaging it? The car was a convertible, and when the rock was thrown, the roof had been down. A public collapse. One city was having a rough patch. Its schools, hotels, and public transport weren't functioning because of a strike that had already lasted for several weeks. One night, someone hit the mayor of the city over the head. The man was rushed to a hospital, and the police arrested 3 suspects. Brandon stated that he had been walking along the street when he heard someone scream, but it was too dark and he couldn't see anything. John confirmed that he had heard a call for help as well, but he was too scared to check it out. As for Dylan, he claimed that he had been waiting for a bus at a bus stop and hadn't heard anything. Who attacked the mayor? It was Dylan. He couldn't be waiting for a bus since they hadn't been running for several weeks because of the strike.